It's been really difficult to maintain any attention on anything for very long, but two things have helped me for sure. The Golden Bachelorette and the return of Yellowstone. Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Bookmarch, and this is my Bookish week for Sunday, November 16th, 17th, one of those. Let's see, I had a really quirky reading week last week. I finished one book, but I started so many others. I have a pretty good sized pile of currently reading. I put some down, I DNF'd some. I was all over the place. And, it's been really hard to concentrate. I'm not going to lie, in the last week or two. So we're just rolling along, doing the best I can and going from there. But there were some great bright points, in all different areas. But in my bookish life, there were some really good points. I did finish a book that I had tried to read many years ago and DNF'd or put down. I don't remember why. I think it was one of those instances of it was the wrong time. Nothing really wrong with the book, but I just DNF'd it way back when. I finished it last week. And this is The Story of Edgar Sawtelle by David Roblewski. And if you love dogs, I highly urge you to read this book. There's nothing, how can I put this? Nothing violent towards dogs happens as far as perpetrated by humans. But there are some definite, absolute tear-jerking moments. So this is the story of Edgar Sawtelle. And Edgar Sawtelle is the young boy, the center of our story, the protagonist. And he comes from a family of dog breeders, trainers. It's a family of dog whisperers, actually, with special dogs. And he grows up on a Wisconsin farm, I believe. Yeah, Wisconsin farm with his parents who breed, raise, train, and place these Sawtelle dogs. And this is Edgar's story from before his birth until the age of 14. If you are not into that, if you're not into kind of the young boy coming of age, you may not enjoy the book. The other interesting thing about Edgar is he's mute. He was mute from birth, so he can hear, he can see, he has every capability and personality of any typical young boy, except he can't speak. And so there's some interesting ways that plays into this story. In the very beginning of the book, like I said, we go back in time and we read about Edgar's parents' family and further earlier than that. And then we read about when Edgar was born and how his life developed, how things changed, what was his story with the dogs, what was his story with his parents, how did he grow up, what kind of a person is he, and it's his story. But eventually, there's a lot of plot angles and plot twists that happen. Plot happens, and things start to get really interesting. The one thing that I did not enjoy about this book is the pacing is a little off. It can get extremely slow in the middle of the book, and I thought at times it was repetitive, and so there probably easily could have been 100 pages cut out of this book. But I really loved the story. It kept me reading. I really wanted to know what happened to Edgar. I've been thinking about this book since I put it down, and that's usually the mark of a great book. For me, I know a lot of people say the same thing, and there have been times when I have not been able to stop thinking about a book, and I will go and change my Goodreads rating. Because if I give a book 4 stars and I can't stop thinking about it weeks later, I might bump that up to 5, because when a book is that thought-provoking, that's special. So maybe not at the time I would have thought some books like that are the best books for me or the most beautifully written in my opinion, but I would still bump them up. That was the one book I finished. There were a couple of other books. I tried to listen to The Situation Room by George Stephanopoulos, and I had to stop. I couldn't get into a book about politics, but I also started to get pretty bored because I just wanted to know the details about the Situation Room. He actually went back in time and he was doing a presidential history, and I got bored, and I'm not into that. And it was about how the presidents interacted with the Situation Room, but then I'm like, no, this is not the right time for me to read a book about politics. And I also started to read Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko, poet, indigenous poet. It's a beautiful book, but it was talking about PTSD after World War II. And it was not the right time to read that book. That one I definitely want to get back to. And there's some other ones, I think. I have a book in my pile. I'm going to show it to you right now. This is, and I'm going to lean because the pile just fell over. And that's the pile of books I need to talk about. I thought I was going to DNF A Court of Mist and Fury, the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. But I decided, you know what? I don't think I'm going to DNF it. I'm going to continue because it's total escapist fantasy. And I don't know. I need that in my life right now. So I'm going to kind of dip in and out of this one. I have such a pile going right now. It's starting to overwhelm me. But I am going to dip back and forth into that one. So I'm not very far. I think I'm on chapter 4. So we'll see how that one goes. I have, 1, 2, 3. I have 5 other books on the go. So I have a total of 6 on the go. I don't know, you guys. I go through phases of maybe I should just read one book at a time, and I don't know, let's read 7. It's either or. And I've said this before, my best place when it comes to how many books I'm going to read is 1 audiobook and 1 physical book. That's it. But I think with my scattered brain, I just started to pick stuff up thinking, hey, maybe this will let me escape reality. And then I have a buddy read, a group read going on, and I don't know what happened, but everything blew up. I am currently reading Time of the Flies by Claudia Pinheiro, and this is for the Pinheiro Project, a very special group of booktubers and readers and friends who are reading all of Claudia Pinheiro's work. Now, this is her latest published in English, and it's translated by Frances Riddle. This is This is the book that comes immediately after All Yours, which I recently finished. And even though they were written further apart or translated further apart in English, we decided to go right to this one to continue the story of the main character in All Yours. And I'm not going to tell you anything about this one because I would spoil the whole thing. But this is her longest published so far and most recent in English. This one has 358 pages, so it's a good-sized book. Charcoal Press is the publisher. I love Charcoal Press. So if you want to read this one, it would be really helpful to read All Yours by Claudia Pinheiro first. That one's from a different publisher, so she went to Charcoal for a while ago. She had several books published before she went over to Charcoal Press. But so far, so good. There's something about her writing. I just really love it. I am reading a banned book, and anytime I pick up a banned book, I will make a point of telling you that this is a banned book. This is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. My daughter read this in middle school, and I have never read this book. What better time to pick up a banned book than now? And so I decided I'm gonna finally read it. It's been on my shelf forever, and I thought this is a pretty normal size paperback. This is a very short book. And the book includes history, context, and criticism. So the actual story of Fahrenheit 451 is 158 pages. And I'm like, why would I not pick that up right now? But I am going to read the extra, history, context, and criticism, when I finish the story of Fahrenheit 451. That is the temperature that book paper burns at, if I got that correctly. And it's Ray Bradbury, and I'm really eager to finally get into his work. I don't think I have, besides small snippets here and there. I needed to pick up a Barbara Pym, so I picked up Some Tame Gazelle. This is the story of sisters Harriet and, where is she, Belinda. They are two excellent women in a small English village in the 50s, and there's a vicar, there's a couple of religious men, and the ladies of the town with the town fair and all of the baking and the food and inviting people over for lunches and teas. And this was published in 1950. This is classic Barbara Pym. I am so into it. I am loving the story. I am loving pulling myself out of the U.S. in 2024 and going back into a tiny little English vicarage village in 1950-ish. This next book I'm reading is a really interesting one. This was sent to me for free from a book promoter, and this promoter I've received another book from, and she kind of periodically reaches out to me because we've corresponded via email back and forth, and I think I told her some of the types of books that I really like to read about. So this is the second book she sent me, and this is an established author, and this book is a kind of a mythical, magical realism story. This is called Any Human Power by Manda Scott. Manda Scott is an established author. She lives in England and Wales. She lives with her wife on a small holding in the borderlands between England and Wales. Let's see. She is the author of, let's see if I can get it. She is the author of a book that I bought because of this book I'm currently reading, Boudica. And I just got this one. Found a used copy, and I am so interested in this one. I'm not going to tell you about that one, but that was in a recent haul. Yes, a book haul. I'm not filming that one, though. But this one is Any Human Power, and let me tell you a little bit about it. As Lan lies dying, she makes a promise that binds her long into the beyond. 15 years later, her teenage granddaughter Caitlin triggers an international storm of outrage that unleashes the rage of a whole betrayed generation. For one shining fragment of time, the world is with her. But then the backlash begins, and soon she and those closest to her find themselves facing the wrath of the old establishment, who will use every dirty trick in the book to fight them off. This is a story of Lan, and her short for Alana, and she is dying. She's on her deathbed. This is not a spoiler, very, very early on. And outside of her hospital window is a crow in a tree. Now, look into the symbolism of a crow and death and the beyond. It is so interesting. And I'm not too far. I really am very early on. I'm at chapter 4, just like in the other book. But Any Human Power, this is a really fun, interesting, spiritual, magical book. Now, I say spiritual in believing something beyond death, or believing something that in something that happens on the earth, a faith or something like that. This is not a book that is proselytizing Christianity or trying to convert anybody. This has a lot of basis in mythology, different types of mythology, Norse mythology, Scandinavian. Talks about what happens after we die. And it's a novel, it's fiction, but it's really good and it's really interesting so far. I hope it doesn't change for the worse. I hope it continues to hold my interest and captivate me. But Any Human Power by Manda Scott. This is a brand new book published in, 2024. And this is by, this is by September Press. And I think I've told her name before. The book promoter that I got this from is Kelsey at Book Publicity Services. Her name is Kelsey Butts. And this is the second book that she has sent me, and I'm really grateful. So, Kelsey, I hope I will send you the link for this wrap-up, which will be next week if you're watching or if you will watch. And thank you very much. I'm really grateful that you discovered me, you reached out, and I'm able to benefit from this. What else? Oh, one more book, my audiobook. I am listening to The Guncle Abroad by Stephen Rowley. I read and really enjoyed The Guncle. I thought it was very sweet. I loved the story. It was deeper than you thought it was going to be, but now I'm reading the follow-up, which is The Guncle Abroad, and Stephen Rowley has a really quirky, sweet way of writing stories, and this is no exception. I'm going to be done with this book, I think, sometime today, so I will wrap it up next week, and that's my audiobook for the week. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I think I'm starting to overwhelm myself with all the books I have on the go, and it's just being so scattered. So tell me in the comments below if you are a monogamous reader or a polygamous reader, and if you enjoy reading a lot of books at once. I know there are many friends that I have that have books on the go all over the place, and they'll read a little bit here and there. I know for me, in my history, I've enjoyed reading a book from cover to cover before picking up many others. This is, again, one of those times in my year where all of a sudden I'm buried in books that I'm currently reading. So I don't know how I feel about that. Let me know in the comments below what you feel about it, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.